Welcome to today's episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jeni, and today we're talking about the Vampire Diaries.
Yay! Happy November!
Happy November!
We made it! This year has flown by.
It really has.
Mm-hmm.
It was just March.
I know. Spoiler warning. We are going to be talking about the first episode of the Vampire Diaries. We're mainly covering the pilot, but we're going to have little tidbits just about the whole series and our thoughts. So if you've never seen it or you're worried about potential spoilers, we're going to do our best to keep it as spoil-free as possible, but just a little heads up.
Yeah, we'll try to warn you if we are going to, deviate from the pilot.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you're interested in watching, and it's a great rewatch, you can see it on Max.
I've actually been rewatching this series.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's been so fun.
Yeah, it's a fun show. This was a hyperfixation show for me for a while, like in high school and then again in college. My best friends Natalie and I rewatched it and became obsessed with vampires. And it's just, so it brings back a lot of good memories for me. When did you watch it first? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was in high school. I maybe didn't catch the very first season when it was coming out. But yeah, probably like 2010 is when I started watching it and I got really into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching it on the tiniest little screen in my room and it would freak me out. Like it was so tense all the time and there were so many like cliffhangers and stuff. My friends and I were very obsessed with it to the point where I think still in our phones, we are Elena Gilbert, Caroline Forbes, and Bonnie Bennett.
Oh my gosh.
Guess which one I am?
Bonnie.
No, but that'd be a good one.
Which one are you?
I'm Elena.
Oh, the star. Heads up, we're recording in my apartment. We normally record in Jenny's beautiful, perfectly quiet apartment, but today we're recording and my misfit puppy is in the background squealing. So if you hear her in the back, that's her just saying she loves you. Thanks for listening. Nap time is over, she's decided. Thank you guys so much for participating in the October Review Challenge. We had so much fun coming up with movies and TV shows as recommendations for you guys. It was great.
Yeah, here are our final reviews to wrap up the challenge. Tia Bree says, "So many of these movies were a part of my past or my children's. What a refreshing way to relive them and want to watch them all over again with a new set of eyes. In a world where so many people are screaming or pointing out the faults, it is a delight to listen to these lovely ladies find humor, show joy, and be curious about the world of movies. Storytelling on storytellers. Just a wonderful podcast." Thank you. The movie that we picked for you is Kiki's Delivery Service. It's from 1989. It's about a little witch who starts a delivery service. It's wholesome and kind, and it's just a good throwback. And I think that really matches the vibe of your review. So thank you. Hope you enjoy.
Yay, thank you.
Runner Girl says, "Since starting my freshman year of college this year, I've been obsessed with listening to podcasts. And there's something exciting about listening to this specific one while I'm walking or running on my campus. Megan and Jeni work so hard to give us this information, and they do so with such a style that's unlike any other. I love all the intricate detail being put into each movie review, and it allows me to feel like I'm having a sit-down conversation with them. Their movie selections couldn't be more perfect, and every Wednesday I look forward to what they're going to do next. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see how far you go with your new creation." Aw, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so nice.
I feel like this is an obvious one, but the fall show that matches your vibe is Gilmore Girls, especially in the later seasons when Rory is in college. Although if you're wanting something that's very similar to the Gilmore Girls vibe, but it's only focused on college, I would recommend giving Felicity a try if you haven't already. It's about a girl who follows her crush to college. Hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for the review.
The reviews really mean a lot to us. We're still pretty new. It's been a couple months, which is kind of crazy.
It's flown by, I think.
And just seeing that you guys are enjoying the episodes as much as we enjoy recording them and hearing your feedback is always super meaningful to us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. And it is the best free way that you can support the podcast.
Okay, so as always, I'm going to read a little synopsis of Vampire Diaries. I really can't speak today. Also, maybe this is a hack or maybe this is not. I don't know. You guys can tell me. But every show or movie has something called a log line, which is usually like a 1 to 3 sentence synopsis of the plot. It usually doesn't give anything away. It really just describes the premise really succinctly. So if you're ever scrolling through, like I do, spending an hour with my husband Brian trying to decide what we're going to watch, and you want a really quick snippet of what something is about, and there's no trailer available, just Google the name of the show or the movie and logline, and something like this will come up.
Yeah, it's so helpful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for Vampire Diaries, the lives, loves, dangers, and disasters in the town Mystic Falls, Virginia. Creatures of unspeakable horror lurk beneath this town as a teenage girl is suddenly torn between two vampire brothers. After centuries of quarreling, Stefan and Damon Salvatore return to their original town of Mystic Falls, Virginia.
That just made my heart skip a beat when you said Stefan and Damon Salvatore. It just got me excited. I don't know why.
I felt like we were right back in Twilight watching this pilot.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a lot scarier than I remember.
Yeah.
Like the very beginning, at least, of the pilot, there are some graphic scenes of like the vampire attacks, and I forgot that it was like a little bit jump scary.
It's like what Twilight wanted to be with the moodiness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Because this show is very dark. There's like a dark filter over everything, even when they're in the high school and it should be like fluorescent lighting. Mm-hmm. It's dark.
That's a really good point. The aesthetic is also dark.
And I think Twilight wanted that, but then they were just blue.
Yep, too blue-green.
The show is based on the book by L.J. Smith, and it was created by Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec. I actually remember like really following Julie Plec at the time. Do you?
Me too.
I'm like, I don't usually know who is in charge of a show.
No, me either.
But I knew this one.
Yeah, I think she's the showrunner, isn't she?
I think so.
And same. I normally don't know who runs the show other than except for Shonda Rhimes, I guess. But I followed Julie Plec. I might still follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm like, how did we know her?
I listened to Candace King, who plays Caroline. I listened to her podcast for a while, and she would bring her up fairly often. So I think that's probably how I found her after the fact.
Gotcha. Interesting. It's funny, Kevin Williamson originally wasn't interested in the idea because the premise was too much like Twilight for him, which we've already mentioned Twilight in this episode. Like,
yeah.
This is not going to be the last time that we're going to mention it, I'm sure. But yeah, he thought it was too similar to Twilight, and then Julie Plec urged him to read the books, and he became really interested in the story of the small town and what lurked below its surface, and he wanted the town story to really be the main focus of the series.
Interesting.
Instead of the high school, which when you just read the logline, I was like, okay, that's not how I would describe the show at all. I would describe it as a high school vampire show.
Same.
But that was very like focused on the town, so I think that's interesting.
That is interesting. And I guess as you get later into the show, it does become more about the town. Like you learn more about the adults in the town, and so I could see that. I feel like the ways that it's the same as Twilight is like it has the same types of creatures in it, like vampires, and then later on we get other creatures, and they're very similar to the Twilight ones. But the concept of the two brothers and like even Elena is not like Bella to me at all.
No, not at all.
But I guess the fact that there's a vampire love interest and it's the male, and then there's like a young woman in high school that they're interested in, I guess that's the same.
Yeah.
But otherwise not very similar.
No. And the two brothers trope. I mean, we've talked about this in the Summer I Turned Pretty episode, but I hate it, but I love it at the same time, just for this instance, probably.
Me too. Are you Team Damon or Team Stefan?
Originally, I was Team Damon, but watching the pilot, I'm like, I'm Team Stefan. But I'm remembering, I think, that as the show goes on, you become more sympathetic to Damon's character. I haven't watched it in so long all the way through that I just haven't like gotten there yet. So it'd be interesting to revisit after I've rewatched it. How about you?
Same. I kind of want to re-binge the show to see what I think.
Let's do it.
That's just a deep hole. It's so many seasons, but I'm so into it. I think I'm Team Stefan.
Okay. Which
counteracts my previous Team Jeremiah and Team Jacob. But I think it's because Stefan comes across as the nicer guy.
Yeah.
But I do this, as you were speaking, I was like, oh, I do remember actually flipping to Team Damon later in the series. Because he's more fun and exciting.
And if I remember correctly, he does kind of become the nicer guy of the two. Briefly.
Yeah.
I actually never finished this show.
I didn't either.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I think I quit after season 4.
How many seasons are there total now?
8.
I think the last time I watched this was when the 8th season was on in college, I'm pretty sure. And so I think only like the first 6 maybe were on Netflix. So I think I've seen through the first 6, but the last 1 or 2 I haven't seen.
Okay, so you've made it pretty far through the series. This show aired from 2009 to 2017.
It's long.
Which makes it the longest running vampire show.
Wow.
Longer than Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Huh.
which is a long one as well. I think that's crazy.
And it has a spin-off, The Originals. Did you ever watch that?
I think I started watching it. It actually has multiple spin-offs.
Oh.
There's Legacies.
I did know that.
I didn't see that one either.
No.
And then this one isn't exactly a spin-off, but it's the same world, I think. The Secret Circle. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to say about The Secret Circle. I loved that show. It's about a witch coven. So same world, I think. It's based on a book by L.J. Smith, and it's like a different story. Phoebe Tonkin is in it, actually.
Wow.
I remember it being really, really good, and it got canceled after 1 season, and it left you on a cliffhanger, and I was just so upset.
Never revisited.
So if anybody else is upset, please let me know. We can be sad together.
Just petition Netflix to pick it back up and do it instead of the CW.
I don't know if it's just because we're talking about so many moody, like spooky vampire things right now, but I just am craving like a brand new show that's in that genre.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen the new Goosebumps show?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
We're getting off topic, but that's a good show. Okay, here's my thoughts. I love it. It's coming out once a week, which we talked about this many episodes ago, but I am fully back on team once a week.
Yes.
It makes the week so much better to look forward to a show one night a week. So I love that. It stars Justin Long. It's pretty funny. It's a little bit scary, and it's like the perfect Halloween spookiness. It's about like a mystery that happens in a town, and then a bunch of the kids and the adults are all trying to figure out what happened. The only thing I don't love is it seems to me like they tried to make every episode incorporate a different Goosebumps book.
Mm-hmm.
So like there is one big story, but then in each episode kind of focuses on a different character and something happens to them.
Okay.
And I think the purpose of that was them trying to like tell a lot of the classic Goosebumps book stories because they're really short and sweet books. And I know the previous Goosebumps show had a different story every episode because every episode was a different book, like completely. So I think it's like an homage to that, but it makes it feel kind of busy because we're following the normal story, plus there's a side story that only lasts for 1 episode.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe if I was super familiar with the Goosebumps books, I would be all for that like side plot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I got excited. I did look at the show and I saw that the first episode is Say Cheese and Die. And that is the only Goosebumps book that I remember.
Oh.
It had a lasting impact on me.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that might be fun, but yeah, I'm curious if anyone's like a huge Goosebumps fan, if it comes across differently because they remember all the books.
I bet it would because it took us a couple of episodes we were watching and we were like, so much is going on. I cannot believe so much is happening. And what happened to that thing like that? What happened to the camera from the first episode? And it's just because I think they're trying to tell a different Goosebumps classic in every episode in addition to the main story. We're so off topic. But anyway, that is a similar vibe.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to watch that because I'm still in a spooky mood.
Yeah. Okay, so the pilot for the show filmed in Vancouver, actually. But then the rest of the show filmed in Covington, Georgia, which is right outside Atlanta. And I remember this. I grew up in Atlanta and went to college there. And I remember like friends in college going to specific houses because you could go see them in different neighborhoods around Atlanta. Like the Gilbert's house you could go see.
I would love to go visit. I want to go visit Mystic Falls.
Yeah, I think it would be so cute. I would love to see the little downtown.
Is that in Covington, Georgia?
I think it is.
Okay, we should go.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
Also, super fun fact. Have you seen Queer Eye on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, you know how they do all of season 1 based in Atlanta?
Yes.
Do you remember an episode about a firefighter?
Oh,
I know,
I think
that's so
so.
niche. This was the first season, but there's an episode that takes place in Covington with the Covington Fire Department where they like help one of the firefighters and they do a
Yes.
fundraiser for the Covington Fire Department.
And they
so,
redesign their little like break room or something.
yeah, and that is in the same town as this,
Wow.
which is basically just like a suburb of Atlanta.
The firehouse of Mystic Falls got a makeover.
I know. Like there's lots of fun little like filming nuggets all around Atlanta because so much is filmed there now, like Stranger Things, Ozark, Vampire Diaries. There's like lots of the same shots that are used in all the same shows. So it's cool.
Growing up, I went to the mall that was that season 2 or 3 of 3 of Stranger Things. I grew up going to that mall. And so I was just
Wow.
like, wait, That's where I went to the Hello Kitty store.
That's actually
I
crazy.
know.
Wow, speaking of the Hello Kitty store, I used to go get those little sodas that you would pop the ball in from the top. Do you know what I'm talking
My
about?
family loves those.
Yeah.
We still get those.
Speaking of just like sites around Atlanta, I know that the cast went to Church a lot, which is a bar in Edgewood. If you guys live in Atlanta or go visit, Edgewood has a really cool, it's like a neighborhood in downtown, and it has a really cool strip of bars that are all themed. So there's like a couple EDM bars. There's a place called Joystick that I think is still open, which is like a game bar. They have like an arcade and a bunch of board games. And there's one called Church. Okay, yes, we always referred to it as Church, but technically the full name is Sister Louisa's Church of the Living Room. Sister Louisa's Church of the Living and Ping Pong Emporium.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. They have very good sangria. And it's just really fun. They have like a big church organ in there and like all the decor. It's kind of giving like dark academia church. Like I was looking up to see if it's actually like supposed to be satanic themed, but I actually think it's just church themed. It's just like kind of weird and funky. And that was one of the main places that the Vampire Diaries cast would always hang out.
Interesting. Did people like know who they were there? Do you know?
I don't think so, because I listened to Candace King's podcast for a while, and she was like, it was so nice because we weren't in the bubble of LA where a lot of other popular pilots were being filmed at the time, and so the cast was like always trying to go to parties and meet new directors and like be seen out. But we were just kind of in this bubble, and I kind of felt like camp, just like being in Atlanta and living in an apartment together and going out to the bars every weekend, and it just felt like college. And they were all college age, and I don't think most of them went, if any, to college. So I think it's cool.
That sounds like so much fun. That sounds like a really good experience.
Yeah. Do I feel like you don't always hear from people going to Atlanta? Like, I feel like Jason Bateman does not like going there to film.
He doesn't?
Yeah. Because it's just away from their family. It's not convenient. It's just cheaper to film there.
Yeah, it just has a different vibe than probably any place that he's used to, right? He's been famous for a long time.
Yeah. And I think the people that are really famous that film in Atlanta, I actually know this because Brian and I talked to a realtor there like a few months ago. Their like teams will reach out to specific realtors in Atlanta to refer them to their old clients that have bought like investment properties there that are really nice and private for stars to stay in when they film.
I did wonder where they go when they live there.
I think it's all over the city. Like, I know Scarlett Johansson stayed in a house in Midtown because it had like it was like obviously huge, and she was filming for a few months and her whole family could come, and I think there was like a big tree wall around the fence, so it was just very private.
Interesting.
So I'm sure that experience is very different than like a bunch of brand new 20-something actors that like don't have significant others, don't have kids, and are just there to work for a few months of the year and get to like party and hang out and don't get recognized really.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing about cast bonding and them actually getting along outside of filming. That's fun.
It makes me happy.
So I feel like the Vampire Diaries was really, really popular pretty much as soon as it came out. And Kevin Williamson found out that a certain Taylor Swift was a big fan of the show.
Wow.
Which doesn't surprise me at all that she would like this show. And you know, we had to bring her up. If it's relevant, we're going to bring her up. But he got so excited that she was a fan of the show that he wrote a character for her.
Oh my gosh. The way my brain would have exploded on the spot if I saw Taylor Swift randomly come on the Vampire Diaries.
All of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have become a fan sooner of her.
Yeah. Who was she supposed to be?
She was supposed to be Lexi, who comes in later. She's Stefan's friend. I don't remember anything about her besides that.
I don't remember her. Hold on.
She's blonde.
Oh, I just looked her up. Look her up, guys. If you've seen the show, you know exactly who this is.
And she kind of, you can tell that when they were casting her, they had Taylor Swift in mind a little bit.
They look a lot alike.
They do. But yeah, Taylor was too busy to play the part, so.
That would have been so cool. I need to rewatch this now to visualize Taylor Swift in the role.
And like the actress who did play Lexi ended up doing an awesome job. Loved her.
Yeah.
From what I remember. But yeah, that would have been so cool.
Wow.
And I think that was the time that Taylor Swift was doing random parts. Like, didn't she have a part on New Girl or something?
I don't know. I think, was this around the time that she did Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I think so, right?
It's like dipping her toe into the acting.
Yeah. So it wasn't like far-fetched that he wrote a character for her. I think he was really hoping.
I could totally see her doing that. Also, side note, like later in her career, maybe kind of like in Only Murders, this was a bigger part, but we had Meryl Streep in this season. I could see her just like having a little guest role in one season and doing a few episodes just to like for fun with her friends.
Yeah. I don't even remember how long Lexi lasted in the show, so I don't know how many episodes she was in.
I don't know, but the first episode that she's in is the 8th episode of the first season. So if anybody wants to skip to that.
Wait, if he wrote that character for her then? She was a fan like right when it came out.
Yep.
And he immediately wrote a character for her.
Yeah, because I think network TV works, what, a couple weeks out?
Oh, you're right. And it would have been 8 weeks into it. Okay.
So still, within like the first month, probably.
Yeah, and they're writing the script every single week, probably.
And they have to cast and everything, so.
Cannot imagine.
I know that always astonishes me, like when I hear Shonda Rhimes or somebody talk about how they're writing the episode like 2 weeks before it airs. I can't.
The stress of that, I can't handle it.
Yeah, she was like, you're literally laying the tracks for the train to come down and you can see the train, is how she described it in her book.
I can't finish a script in a year.
No, I can't imagine. Okay, you want to get into the cast?
Yeah, let's talk about Nina Dobrev. She plays Elena Gilbert, the lead. She's so talented. I love her. This is the best role she's ever done.
Yeah, she's really good in this. It's perfect for her.
So my favorite part, who else almost played Elena Gilbert?
Lay it on me.
Ashley Simpson.
Huh.
I didn't even remember that she was an actress at any point.
Me either.
But apparently she was. Around this time. And then also another Ashley that we know, Ashley Tisdale.
Wow.
And I think Ashley Tisdale was offered the role of Elena, but she turned it down to star in another CW show, Hellcats.
Interesting.
The cheerleading show.
Huh.
Which I don't even think made it past one season, so bad decision for her to turn it down.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the Vampire Diaries would have done as amazing with Ashley Tisdale.
No, because she's so recognizable from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and that feels like the exact same fan base, just grown up, because it was a few years later. That's like hard for me to visualize.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of makes sense why they were looking at these two to play Elena, because actually when they cast Nina as Elena, it caused backlash from all of the book fans, because in the book, she's blonde with blue eyes.
Huh.
Which I can't picture at all.
Not at all.
And Kevin Williamson really wanted her to look like more of a relatable girl next door, and so he consciously changed that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that is who her character is. Her character is very girl next door, so it surprises me that she was blonde with blue eyes in the book. Just because stereotypically, I think when you get this like stereotypical high school cast of characters, the like blonde hair, blue eye cheerleader is like the Caroline Forbes or like the Regina George.
But we immediately knew who Elena Gilbert was.
She was just in a movie that I saw with Adam Devine. It's called The Outlaws. It's actually pretty cute and funny. Would recommend.
It's a comedy?
It's on Netflix.
Is it a rom-com?
Movie. It just came out in July. It's a rom-com crime thriller. That type of thing. It's like a little bit offbeat. It's pretty funny. Especially if you also like Adam Devine. The two of them are engaged in the movie.
I don't know who he is.
You would recognize him. He's from Righteous Gemstones. I think he's in Pitch Perfect.
Oh. The guy with the spiky hair.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in a lot of rom-coms. Yes, I love him. Okay, cool.
She also is Shaun White's girlfriend.
I forgot about this. They are cute together. I love them.
They both, and I mean this in a loving way, give off like kind of try-hard energy.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I think it's just because they're both super gregarious and like they seem extroverted and outspoken, and I don't think we get two people that are in a couple like that are public figures a lot. So I think there's mixed feelings about them online.
Interesting.
Yeah. She is also best friends with Julianne Hough, which I think gets the same rap of a little bit of a try-hard, also extra gregarious and outspoken online.
Interesting. I don't know anything about Julianne Hough except that one time when I was a kid, I had dinner with my friend's family friend or something, and he was a producer. And at the time, I didn't know what a producer was, so I was like, whatever. Now I'd be like, dinner with a producer. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. But he was telling us who are like the mean people in Hollywood and who are the really nice people. He said Julianne Hough is really, really nice.
Aww.
He said Will Ferrell is mean.
No.
That's all I remember.
That's surprising. I would have thought the opposite for both of them.
I know. Every time I see Will Ferrell now, I'm like, I've heard you're mean.
Oh, that's sad. Tragic.
He totally might not be.
Although I feel like we keep just reminding ourselves to stop standing celebrity men.
And I'm going to be honest, I have something for us later.
Oh boy. Perfect. Anyway, yeah, so she's been with Sean White for a couple years. She's best friends with Julianne Hough. I think they have a wine company together.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think they
Oh.
started it like a year or two ago. Julianne recently got divorced from her husband, and I think both of them came out actually shortly after as queer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Julianne is out as bi. There's
Wait, can you tell me, is she an actress or a country singer? Who is she?
she's a dancer.
A dancer.
Mm-hmm. I think she got her start on Dancing with the Stars. She has an oddly close relationship with her brother, Derek Hough. They're dance partners.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And then I think she has done some acting and some singing since then, but I think she got her start on Dancing with the Stars as a pro, one of the dance pros.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. There is some speculation online that she used to hook up with Taylor Swift.
Wow.
So you guys can go find your way down that rabbit hole if you want.
Good
separately.
for her. Good for her.
I
Cool.
know. Okay, you want to talk about Paul Wesley?
Yeah, Stefan Salvatore. Which, first off, I read the script, which was amazing, by the way.
Oh.
Usually scripts disappoint me when we're talking about them. This script was awesome. So if you're someone who likes to read scripts like a weirdo like I do, this one's really enjoyable. In the script, they were not the Salvatores.
Huh.
They were the Whitmores.
Oh, no.
I hate it. But anyway, back to Paul Wesley. He auditioned a ton of times for Stefan Salvatore, and they kept passing on him. They actually kept forgetting that they
Had seen him.
I'm pretty
so he
sure.
just keeps resubmitting.
I don't exactly know how it worked out, but he basically kept getting passed on until he had a chemistry test with Nina. And then they were like, oh, they've got a lot of chemistry.
Wow, he's perfect for the role in my opinion.
He's perfect, yeah.
He gives
No
better
qualms.
Edward.
Better Edward, yes.
He comes in, he's the new guy. He's a little bit standoffish.
But he's nice and likable and mysterious.
In the best ways, not in the creepy, twitchy ways.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
And they have the same hair and similar coloring.
Yeah, and I think that's what Twilight was going for, but it just didn't come across. I don't know. Interesting. But I do think it's funny that his and Nina's chemistry was so good because apparently they didn't like each other for the first 5 months of filming. They hated each other. And it actually took them a couple years to become friends. And now it seems like to me they are friends now, but it wasn't a great relationship starting off.
I've heard this. I've heard that they really hated each other until well into filming, which is always just, I wonder why. I don't know why. I've never heard a rationale other than they just didn't like each other.
Paul Wesley kind of comes across in a way that it's he knows he's hot shit. And I mean that in the best way possible because I've seen Instagram lives with him and he seems really funny. But he almost has a hard exterior. I don't know. He almost seems very dry with his humor. I don't know if you get that at all, but
I honestly have not seen, I've probably seen the least of him in interviews and stuff compared to everyone else. So I have no idea what he's like.
I could imagine him being a little standoffish, but yeah, I don't know for sure. But I'm is the sexual tension that's just between them this whole season, is that just hate?
I guess so. I can't imagine that because it's just so funny because most of the time in these situations, they end up together. The main leads that are romantic interests in a show, especially when they're in their 20s, they end up together and no, not the two of them, hated each other immediately.
Yeah.
Which is just the opposite. You never hear about that. He does have an interesting dating history. He actually married another cast member in 2011, Tori DeVito. She plays Dr. Meredith Fell.
Yes. Okay, yes, I remember this.
And yeah, so that lasted a couple of years. And then they got divorced, and he pretty much immediately started dating Phoebe Tonkin.
Oh, yes.
Who is also in the Vampire Diaries. She plays Haley. And then they broke up in 2017. They dated on and off for 4 years. And then he almost immediately married somebody else who's not a cast member as far as I know. And they just got divorced. So that is interesting.
Yeah, I remember when he was with Tori DeVito because I was like, wow, they're perfect together. This is so cute. And then Phoebe Tonkin, I understand why they were a good match, I guess, but
it's crazy to me because this all happened while they were filming. So he was with Tori DeVito. Again, the show went from 2009 to 2017. So he was with Tori DeVito from 2011 to 13, and then with Phoebe Tonkin from 13 to 17.
I'm sure that gets so messy and awkward when you're just coworkers with all of them, and then all your coworkers are like thinking about you and your new relationship with their other coworker.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that happening in an office?
No, I'm sure it does all the time, though. You just spend so much time with those people. But, like, I can't remember if Tori DeVito stays on the cast after they break up, but I think she does.
I don't remember.
So then to still be in the cast while he's dating Phoebe, and they were married, would just be tough.
I hope for her sake she wasn't on the show anymore.
Me too. This is the questionableness of Paul Wesley to me. Okay, the other brother, Ian Somerhalder.
Damon Salvatore.
He is married to Nikki Reed, who played Rosalie in Twilight. So they're just a vampire house.
Love it.
Yeah, they have 2 kids. And get this, we've talked about this in almost every episode, the people that just fully lean into their characters and they're like the series that made them famous. This is what Ian and Paul have done because they recently started a bourbon brand called Brothers Bond Bourbon.
Oh my gosh, stop. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard. Oh, I'm so glad they're friends. I wasn't sure if you were going to love
that or think it's so cringe.
No, I'm so glad they're friends. Hey, profit off of it. Keep profiting.
Totally.
I'm fine with it.
Totally. Yeah, and the branding, if you see it, is very Vampire Diaries coded, so it's pretty funny.
Oh, I wish I liked bourbon.
Yeah.
I would buy some.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And also, wasn't there something with him and Nina Dobrev at some point? Were they dating?
They did date. They got together, it seems like around when filming started, like 2010, 2011. They went to the Much Music Video Awards together, which I've never heard of. They were together on the red carpet there, so people speculate that they got together at some point before then, and that was mid-2011. And then I didn't know this, but in 2012, there were a bunch of rumors of a proposal rejection. They denied it. But
I would deny it too.
Sure. So no idea if there's truth to that. But then they were still together after that. So like all of 2012, there are photos of them. They were out together. They went to Met Gala parties together. They had a cat together. And then they split in 2013 after being together for 3 years. That's actually way more significant than I thought.
Yeah, maybe they were just like trying to be as private as possible with it.
Yeah.
I saw this video recently. I think Ian Somerhalder was at it was like a Comic-Con type of thing. And he was there for like the Vampire Diaries and they were rewatching either the whole episode of something or just clips. This might be a spoiler. So like maybe fast forward like 30 seconds or a minute. But there's a scene of him and Nina and he's just sitting there watching it in front of a whole crowd. And he goes, "Memories."
Apparently they've publicly made a bunch of like jokes about their relationship and breakup together and have been seen together a lot since then. So it seems like they're friends.
I love that.
In which case that is actually really funny.
Yeah, maybe they were just really, really good friends and they dated and then they were like, okay, yeah, we can just be friends still.
Yeah. Okay, Kat Graham.
Bonnie Bennett. I love Bonnie's character so much.
She's probably my favorite.
I think so too.
Later on, I think my favorite is Caroline.
Yeah, she has some good character growth, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I will say Bonnie's character is probably the most mistreated of the show.
Mm.
She's very much there in service of the other characters on the show the entire time. Like, I don't even remember any of her plot lines, really.
I think we see her actually get frustrated by that later in the series. Like, I think she's just like, you just use me for, spoiler alert, my powers, basically, to like help you. Yeah, I know, that makes me sad because I really, really like her.
Yeah, me too. And there's a lot of things online about Kat being mistreated by the cast and by the producers. For example, she suggested that Bonnie have curls or texture, and she got shot down pretty quickly, and she had to wear wigs instead of her natural hair the whole show.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, and for most of her other roles, too. And then if you look online, there's like a lot of, I don't know if people are reading into it or not, but there's a lot of like clips of the cast dismissing things that she says in interviews or kind of like giving weird looks and stuff. I do not know if that's real or not, but
it's disappointing.
Apparently she was going to be fired at some point. They didn't want to have her on the show for very long.
Huh.
And then Ian Somerhalder said that he would leave if they fired her.
Wow.
I know.
He seems like actually a really good guy.
He does too. I say that with the caveat that I don't know, but
yeah, same. But just from like his, I was about to say from his Instagram, and I know that that's just a lie, but like him and Nikki Reed, I think has like a sustainable jewelry brand, and they're always posting about the environment and like nonprofits that they're donating to and stuff, and I just appreciate that.
I was going to say, isn't he like an animal rights activist too?
He is, yeah.
So while he seems like he was a great ally for her on the show, I do have to say that there are some rumors about Matt Davis being a terror.
Mm.
And I don't exactly know what they are. I couldn't like really find anything.
He plays Alaric, right?
He plays Alaric later on, yeah. And we were just talking about him in our Legally Blonde episode and about how much we love him.
Mm-hmm. What we said about him in the Legally Blonde episode also is I had a friend in college that went to the same spin studio as him after we graduated.
I do love this.
And I never heard anything really about him, just that like he was fun and they used to sit near each other in class, that's all. Because he was filming, I think, the originals or Legacies.
Oh, okay.
In Atlanta. So that's a bummer. There's always rotten apples. Whenever we talk about this, I feel like there's always a guy that's alleged to just be horrible.
Yeah, I have no idea, but if the rumors are true, then we don't stan him anymore.
The last person I want to talk about is Candace King. Used to be Candace Acola.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was her name when she started Vampire Diaries. She plays Caroline Forbes. I love her. She's the best. I used to listen to her podcast that she had with Kayla Ewell. I don't know how you say her last name. She plays Vicky.
Oh, yes.
And they had a podcast together for years because they were best friends. And they would not necessarily just talk about Vampire Diaries. They talked about just their personal lives and would have people on for interviews. They had Julie Plec on a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
So they would like throw in tidbits, but it was more just because that's when they became friends, less because the podcast wasn't about Vampire Diaries at all.
Yeah, when I looked up the podcast, it said something like it's about being in your 30s and like the things that come up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And it took me a second to even realize that was Vicky. I was like, huh.
I think it's called Directionally Challenged.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it's just about them like figuring their shit out in their 30s.
I love that they have a podcast just about life because I feel like a lot of people who are celebrities who've been in like very successful shows that maybe aren't in those successful kind of roles anymore, they start podcasts that are like recapping the show and talking about the behind the scenes.
Like Ashley Greene of Twilight.
Yeah, I think it's great for her that she has that. But there's something nice about like, oh no, it's just two girls talking about life. I love that. And then throwing in, tidbits about their past, but that's not what the podcast is about.
No, the whole thing is like you said, we thought we were going to have it all figured out by the time we turned 30, and turns out that's a complete lie. And so now we're figuring it out. And so over the course of the podcast, they both became moms. And so then they would talk about like breastfeeding and like random stuff. It's not a lot of like mother topics. It's also just about like your career and hormones and just like girl things. It's really good.
Oh, I'll have to listen to it.
I think they stopped doing it, but Candace has a new podcast. I think it's called Bloom, where she does interviews.
Okay.
She also, fun fact, was married to Joe King, who is part of the band The Fray.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So that's how she became king. He's, I think, a decent bit older than her, but they started dating pretty early on into Caroline, I'm going to keep doing it, Candace being on Vampire Diaries, and they got married, I think, pretty quickly. And he has 2 daughters from a previous marriage, so they became her stepdaughters, and they looked so cute and so happy, and they lived in Denver together, and then moved to LA a couple of years ago, and then got divorced what felt like out of nowhere, like right after they had their second daughter together. So I don't know what happened, but she moved to Nashville, started this new podcast, lives there with her 2 daughters, not the stepdaughters, obviously. And yeah, it's just been an interesting roller coaster to see just on her Instagram because she's pretty open about everything. So I'm curious to go back and listen to her podcast and see if she just like talks about what's going on with her now.
Nashville seems correct for her. Denver seems weird. Maybe it's because we both are from Denver, but I can't picture her here.
The vibe I got listening to her podcast, and I have no evidence to back this up, was that her husband lived here. Like, I don't know if the Fray was maybe from here, or like her husband's kids, so her stepdaughter's mom maybe lived here, and so they were here for school or something, because it seemed like they needed to be here, and she was always traveling a lot for work, and then eventually they moved to LA for both of their careers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a bummer. I was really surprised when I saw that they broke up. She's pretty good friends with the guy who plays Tyler. I forget his name. The guy who plays Tyler, and then Kayla, who plays Vicky, and her are all good friends. And so they like went to Europe together, like the 3 of them, I think, and it just like seems like she's thriving, so I'm happy for her now.
Yay, that's awesome.
Yay. Okay, should we recap the pilot?
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
So this starts and the vibes are Twilight.
Oh, yeah, totally. We've got a voiceover at the beginning, except it's not Bella's, it's Stefan's.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "For over a century, I've lived in secret. Until now, I am a vampire, and this is my story." So cheesy. That's what Robert said to me my boyfriend Robert, when he overheard that scene.
It is. It's very cheesy. It just reminds me of the Twilight one, when she's talking about dying in place of someone you love must be a good way to die, or whatever she says at the beginning of Twilight in the voiceover.
And it's like in the woods, and there's like fog, and it's creepy.
Yes.
Yeah. But I like that it just outright says, "I am a vampire."
Mm-hmm.
We know the show is called Vampire Diaries. We're not beating around the bush. You know we're vampires.
Yes. I was surprised throughout the pilot how much they just gave us. Like how much information they gave us, not holding any cards close to them.
Yeah.
We met all the characters. We saw who they are. It was great. We got all the backstory we needed.
Oh, I love it because I hate when it's like, yeah, obviously we know this is a show about vampires. Like, get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's going to be a while before she finds out, but...
Let us in on it.
And I just got really confused because I forgot that this is like Stefan's story.
Me too.
I thought this was Elena's story.
Me too. It was weird because, like you said, I think he says in the beginning, like, "and this is my story." And I was like, hang on.
It is?
Then we just jump to Elena for pretty much the rest of the
show.
The show, yeah. So that was weird to me. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see a couple driving down the road. It's dark, it's raining. They're driving through Mystic Falls, and they see a man in the road, and it's too late, and they swerve and stop the car. And the guy, man in the couple that was in the car, gets out to see if there's like a person or if they're alive.
Yeah, and I don't remember this from like the millions of other times that I've watched this episode, but he checks out the body and he sees that the body is wearing a big ring. And then the man gets up and attacks him. And then when the girl gets out of the car, his body falls on the hood and she runs away screaming, and then she gets attacked too. It was a very scary way to start off.
Very dark and jump scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm so here for it. And then we see Stefan, but we don't really see his face for a really long time, but we see that he's standing on the roof, and then he just like jumps off the roof of his house and lands perfectly on the ground. This was like kind of funny to me. And he's like, "I knew I shouldn't have come. I knew the risk, but I have to know her," which I feel like is a very iconic line.
So we immediately get the feeling that he's here for some girl. We don't know who, but then we cut to her. Elena's writing in her diary. This becomes a big thing in the show, her diary, that she's going to start the school year fresh after her parents died. So then we're getting her background. She goes downstairs, like it's the morning before school kind of chaos. We meet Aunt Jenna, who's taking care of her and her brother Jeremy, who we also meet. And the news is playing in the background, and it's talking about the couple who died of the animal attack. Quote, animal attack.
Yeah. Can we talk about Aunt Jenna for a second?
Yes.
I was trying to figure out how old she was.
This is my question throughout the entire series every time I watch it.
When you Google it, people are like 25 because she's a grad student. In the script, she's 29.
Oh, it says.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that's like the range that she's supposed to be.
I can see 29.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying.
Why? Because we're basically 29?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like 29 years old, and then you get a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old deposited. They are in your custody. You're grieving that your sibling and their spouse died, but you have to like put it all together for these kids.
To take care of high schoolers.
And that's like very close to my siblings' age.
Yeah, it is.
So for me, I'm like, okay, like, you know, I can imagine myself taking care of them. But like, I don't know, respect to her. She's figuring it out.
I think her and the kids' dynamic throughout the show is so fun. Like, I just like love their relationship, and you can like see that she's trying. It's just really unique. I don't think we see that age, especially as like a caretaker, ever, literally ever. But anyway, yeah, I like her a lot. Okay, so Elena's friend Bonnie takes her to school and is talking about how her grandma, who she calls Grams, made a comment that she's psychic and told her that their ancestors are from Salem, which is fun foreshadowing. They almost hit a bird and like swerve the car, and Bonnie obviously freaks out, apologizing to Elena because Elena's parents, this is how we find out, I think, died in a car crash. And she was like, "I can't be scared of getting in the car forever. It's okay." Which I'm just like, ugh, this is so heavy.
So heavy. I really love how Bonnie just is so empathetic to Elena. As we meet Caroline, Caroline just doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But Bonnie is like, oh my gosh, I can understand that scary incident in the car probably did not do anything good for you. Let me check on you.
Yeah.
Justice for Bonnie.
Bonnie is the MVP. She is the best friend in this whole show.
Yes, I love her. Also, I just wish I was psychic and my ancestors were from Salem.
I know.
I want to know everything about the witches.
Me too.
I want to know everything.
I've been thinking about diving into witch talk. Side note.
What does this mean?
I found out that was a thing. I just think it would be fun. I just want to see all the videos.
Are they like witches?
I don't know.
Okay.
What's going on Witch Talk? I heard somebody on a different podcast mention, I saw on Witch Talk. I was like, I need to be on Witch Talk.
I think that if I was on Witch Talk, it would actually just scare me.
Oh.
Because I would be like, oh my gosh, you're doing spells. Like, you're actually doing spells. That's scary. I only want fictional spells.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But props to whoever is a witch. Keep going.
Okay, so when she gets to school, Elena waves to Matt, who we quickly learn is her ex, also a really old friend of hers. He doesn't wave back, so we can tell there's beef between them. And we also meet Caroline.
Caroline, meeting her, she doesn't give off the best first impression, I would say. But we did mention that she kind of has some good character growth throughout this show and becomes a fan favorite. And I just noted that when I read the script, I really liked the description that they used for Caroline.
Ooh.
I think it's perfect. They said, Caroline is genuine. In her own way, she truly cares. And that's how they set her character up for the whole show.
That's such an interesting way to describe her in the beginning.
Because you don't really get that. I don't think Candace really let that shine, but...
You get the annoying know-it-all class president, control freak, girly girl. That's who you get.
Yeah.
But you can tell that she cares a lot about the things she really cares about. You know what I mean? She cares a lot about her image. She cares a lot about people liking her.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. So I could see that.
And she gets a little more vulnerable at the end of the episode, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she asks Elena how she's doing. And then she turns to Bonnie and goes, how is she doing? And Elena's like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
She just has no self-awareness.
Yeah, she's a little bit oblivious.
Then we see Jeremy at school. He's giving drugs to Matt's sister, Vicky. And you can tell that he has feelings for her, but she's with Tyler, who is pretty much a jerk this entire episode.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy and Tyler are definitely butting heads a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy is kind of the nerdy stoner, and Tyler gives off jock vibes. So they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Bonnie and Elena, as they're walking down the hall, see the new guy sitting in the front office getting his schedule, and it is Stefan. So we still haven't seen his face.
The front office lady says that he's missing records, but then he takes off his glasses and he tells her to look again and she'll find everything there. And then she's like, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we see, okay, he's got some kind of hypnosis powers here.
Yep. Also, this part just cracks me up. Stefan gets up and leaves the office, and Bonnie is standing at the end of the hall just staring at him. And we just see her, kids are walking by behind her, and Stefan doesn't acknowledge us at all. He just walks out and then turns. And I'm like, how could you not address this girl staring just dead in the face?
And she's in a trance. She's following him oh.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Because just like in Twilight, this man is a man. He does not look like he's in high school.
No. Not at all. Meanwhile, Elena saw Jeremy walk into the boys' bathroom. So she marches in there to yell at him for being stoned and getting high before school.
I love this scene with her because we just really see she's kind of like a mama bear to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really taking care of him. But also we see her toughness. She's not just this nice, super likable girl. She's got an edge to her, which I think is cool.
A term I feel we hear in our writing classes a lot when someone has a really succinct, good scene that communicates a lot about a character is this scene is doing a lot for you, that phrase. And I think this scene is doing a lot for us as audience, for the writers, for the actors. We learn so much about Elena by the fact that she's willing to storm into the boys' bathroom of her high school and yell at her brother in front of people. And that it's important to her that he does well and that she is the one in the family that has her shit together.
Yeah.
And she's not ashamed of being in the boys' bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love her.
Coming out, she runs into Stefan, so this is their meeting.
So embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, isn't that the men's restroom? And she's like, long story.
Yeah. And so they go into class and they're in the same class and they're kind of like making eyes back and forth. You know the scene where they're sitting staggered and, one of them looks back at the other and then the other one looks up at them. You guys know.
Yeah, and then Bonnie texts her and she's like, Hawty, and it's HAWT-E. I'm like, I don't even think we typed like that back in the day. We would never put a dash.
No.
Especially because it was like the phones that you have to like click, click, click to get to the right letter.
Like the extra character? Absolutely not. After school, Elena goes to the cemetery to visit her parents' grave, and she's sitting there writing in her diary. This is the second time we've seen her write in her diary in like the first half of the episode. So you can tell that she's a big writer.
I like that it's called the Vampire Diaries and they actually write in their diary, because I feel like in the Princess Diaries, she only kind of writes in her diary like at the very end. Maybe it happens somewhere else, but I don't remember. But it's like a very important part of this show.
I never once thought about that. The fact that her and Stefan both have diaries and every episode starts and ends with a diary entry. And the show is called Vampire Diaries. Not just like the diaries of these people. Like the show is, no. Okay.
And I love that because my idea of a fun Friday night is sitting and writing in a journal.
Yeah, I can relate. So she's sitting in this graveyard and this like creepy fog starts to come in. And there's a crow that lands on a grave. And it bothers me deeply that they say this is a crow because I'm like 99% sure it's a raven.
What's the difference?
A raven is a lot bigger and it has a bigger beak and it looks a lot scarier. And the raven, to my knowledge, is the one that's like associated with death. Like the raven is the one that's like follows around Maleficent, a lot of evil characters in shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, anyway, that's just a pet peeve.
Yeah, I think it would be creepier if they referred to it as a raven.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I'm like pretty sure that the bird that they used is a raven.
Huh.
Anyway, that's just a side note. But she sees this bird.
Any bird experts listening? Let us know.
Yeah, sound off in the comments. She gets freaked out, obviously, and runs away. I would too. I love when we see a character actually do the thing that you would do.
Yes.
Like not just be like, that's weird. Let me just keep sitting here. She like actually gets up and runs away.
Yeah, after like telling it to shoo and doing all the normal things. And she's like, okay, this is not creepy at all,
Mm-hmm.
She runs away and she falls.
And then she runs into Stefan. I think the most important thing that happens in their interaction is one, we see that he has a big family ring on. And it's the same as the one that we saw in the very beginning of the guy that got hit by the car. And then he also asks if she hurt herself and she pulls up her jeans to show a big cut and he disappears. Again, it's giving Edward.
Yeah, he's like, you should take care of that. Bye.
Yeah.
Also, can we just talk about like the Elena Gilbert outfit?
Oh, yes. The uniform.
It is the uniform. She's always got like a long sleeve shirt with like a lace cami underneath and then jeans that are kind of a little funky, like they've got something on the back pockets, and then Converse.
Yeah, it's always like bootcut jeans, Converse, long straight hair.
There was a time that Elena Gilbert core, that was like an aesthetic that people were dressing like.
Oh, that's fun.
And Twilight core. I think they kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of same outfits.
Yeah.
But it makes me very nostalgic, so that's why I have to bring it up.
The lace cami especially.
Oh my gosh. The layers. I couldn't be bothered now.
No, and I'm too sweaty.
Too sweaty for sure.
Can't be wearing multiple shirts.
Then we see Stefan at home, and he's writing in his diary that he lost control and he's not able to resist her. And we see that he has her diary. And then cut to the Mystic Grill where all the kids hang out.
I love the Mystic Grill.
This is throughout the whole series, right?
Yeah. I wonder if that's an actual restaurant in Atlanta. I bet it's in Covington.
They made a restaurant after this.
Oh.
I don't know if it's in Covington or not, but they did make a Mystic Grill. There's a real one now.
Oh, I want to go. That's fun.
Yeah, we should go.
Yeah.
Vicky is the waitress at the Mystic Grill. And Jeremy's kind of following her around like a puppy. He's confronting her for acting different. And we find out that they hooked up over the summer multiple times. And she tells him to back off so he doesn't ruin things with her and Tyler. And is this the part where he's like, he only wants you for your ass? And she's like, and what do you want me for?
This might be that part.
Yeah. There's like some tension there.
Yeah, we get the sense that Vicky just like doesn't trust men.
At all.
That is like the thesis of Vicky's entire character to me. Is just like, teenager that's like been through a lot of shit.
Yeah, men use her, and she's used to that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Elena's about to leave to meet her friends, I think also at the Mystic Grill, and when she opens the door, Stefan is there.
And he's like, oh yeah, I was about to knock. And I'm like, were you?
Were you?
Can you even knock? I don't know.
Right.
Can he like cross the threshold to knock? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
How far it goes.
And he's there to bring back her diary, and he says, don't worry, I didn't read it, because he wouldn't want anyone to read his.
And that moment is like, oh, Elena's in 100%. She's like, he has a journal?
Yes, about a man that diaries.
And he didn't read mine, and he knows the importance of writing down your memories. Wow.
And he brought it right back.
Yep.
So something important that she tells him during this interaction is she's like, you know, you don't have to stand outside. I think she goes in to get her jacket or something before leaving, and that's like not quite an invite in. And so we can see that this is something that holds true in this series, is the like vampire myth that they're not allowed in unless they're invited. So he stands outside, and then she invites him to just come with her.
I do love that they stick to like the tropes, the vampire tropes here. It just makes it so that they're not like totally invincible, and there's like some awesome stuff you can do in the story. I don't know. I don't like it when they can just do whatever they want.
And I think it's just kind of familiar. Like in Twilight, I feel like we're relearning all the rules that exist only in this world, whereas a lot of the just like myths and stuff are true in Vampire Diaries. And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so meanwhile at the Mystic Grill, Matt is talking to Bonnie, and he asks how Elaine is doing, and Bonnie is like, just give her more time. You can tell everybody kind of believes that they're meant to be because they're family friends growing up, and that they'll probably get back together. However, then she walks in with Stefan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Awkward.
And he comes and sits down with Elena and her friends. So it's Elena, Bonnie, Caroline, and Stefan, and they're asking him a bunch of questions because he's the new guy in town. And he says that his parents died and that he lives with his uncle.
And that he has no siblings that he talks to. Important. And this is interesting because I think Bonnie like makes a look over at Elena like, wow, they're perfect for each other. They like both of their parents have died. They both live with an aunt or an uncle.
Very serendipitous seeming. So then we actually see Stefan back at his house, and Zach, who's a new character we haven't seen yet, comes into Stefan's room. This is the person that we sort of assume is the uncle in the situation, except for then he calls Stefan Uncle Stefan. And so you're like, oh, we have some vampire age situation happening here.
I remember watching this for the first time and being like, what?
Yeah, I think this is meant to be like a big reveal.
Yeah.
Zach is upset because in the newspaper, the couple is like listed as dying of an animal attack. And Zach knows that he, comes from a line of vampires and that this was probably Stefan, he assumes. So he's there to actually confront Stefan about it and say, like, you promised if you came back, you wouldn't do this. So what's going on? Stefan swears it wasn't him. And you can tell Zach doesn't really believe it.
And then Stefan opens up an old book, and we see an old photo of a girl who looks exactly like Elena, and the name under the photo says Catherine, 1864. Can we please talk about Catherine? We have to.
Sure.
Okay, this is going to be a spoiler, so please skip ahead if you don't know anything about Catherine.
Give us a couple minutes.
Nina Dobrev does such a good job playing Catherine and Elena and them impersonating each other, and I think there are other people she plays later on, but I don't think I got that far in the show. But like, wow.
Agreed. I totally agree.
Never would expect her to play dark so well.
Yeah, but she does. I haven't seen her do anything else like that where she's mean, where she's like a villain character.
No, and I am such... Like, I love anything where we get to really, like, see the range of an actor. Like, I'm thinking of one of my favorite shows of all time is Orphan Black, which never gets the credit that it deserves. I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't take off, but the one actress plays pretty much every character in the show.
Wow, I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But she basically plays every character, and then they're impersonating each other, and you can tell when they're impersonating each other because it's just very subtle differences, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, the impersonation feels like so specifically hard.
Yeah, and I think Nina crushes that. She really does. And I just remember it being like an amazing, incredible reveal when we first see Catherine. Oh, so awesome.
It makes me want to go back down the research rabbit hole of doppelgangers because I think this is also like a supernatural thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about it. I don't remember. Do you know the significance of that, like the history of doppelgangers?
I don't know anything about them beyond this show. No.
Okay. That's going to be my research rabbit hole for tonight.
I always thought it was just like a random word that they would use if somebody looks like your twin.
I think it's, yeah, that's because that's how it's used in pop culture. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys are doppelgangers. But I think that is a, like, I'm just going to look it up real quick. Please hold. Okay, here's a little Wikipedia snippet on doppelganger. A doppelganger is a biologically unrelated look-alike or a double of a living person. In fiction and mythology, a doppelganger is often portrayed as a ghostly or paranormal phenomenon and usually seen as a harbinger of bad luck.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
See, it's so funny because when this show starts off and you're not really like knowing any of that yet, you're just like, huh, interesting. She looks just like so and so. And we always get that trope in movies, I feel like, and shows. So it's like something that's familiar to us. And we're just like, oh, he just was drawn to her because he used to be in love with someone who looked just like her. But it's like so much more than that. And I love it. I'm going to rewatch this show now.
Yeah, I think I am too.
I'm invested. I just remember loving Catherine's character so much. Okay, spoiler alert over.
So now that we know that Stefan is super old, because that's basically what we just learned.
He's old.
He's old. He was in love with somebody in 1864, or at least that's what we're left to assume. In class the next day, they're talking about the Battle of Willow Creek, and Mr. Tanner, the teacher, asks the class how many casualties happened. He's like pop quizzing them. And he's like such a dick to Elena because she doesn't know the answer and her parents just died. And he's like, the excuses are over or whatever.
Wait, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a reason to know the exact number of casualties or the exact number of anything?
Literally never.
For a history class?
No.
I don't know why he's pop quizzing them on this specific number and then getting mad at them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I'm guessing because it's like supposed to be a battle that took place in their small town.
I'm like, if I said 200 something, wouldn't that suffice?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Stefan is able to give an exact answer and like kind of is a know-it-all to Mr. Tanner and is like, actually, no, the number you're saying is wrong. You can go to the library and brush up on it if you want. So he's just kind of like a know-it-all about it. But we know that he actually knows because he was probably there.
Yeah, he was there. And yeah, he's like, there actually were civilians who died in it. And Mr. Tanner's like, no, there weren't. And he's like, yeah, there were. You can go check the library archives. And it's like, ooh.
Ooh, yeah.
And Elena is into it. I'm like, nerd. Like, like I'm just thinking of anybody else doing this in class and people would be like, ooh, like that kid is like really talking back to the teacher right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they would think he was cool for knowing the answer, but
no.
maybe it's just because he's hot. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because everybody loves a new person. Okay, so later on, everybody goes to a party. There's like a big bonfire party. Why is this such a thing when we see small towns in TV shows and movies? Like a bonfire party. Did you ever have one?
Yes.
Oh.
But it was very small. It was like 8 people.
Okay.
In someone's backyard. It wasn't like a big town high school party. But I want one.
I know.
It looks fun.
And in this scene, we see that Stefan has super hearing abilities because he can hear the girls talking about him, which I think is kind of funny.
And then Bonnie gets this vision when she touches Elena and she sees a crow, fog, and a man, which upsets Elena because that literally just happened to her. And she's like, what the heck? But she brushes it off when she sees Stefan and he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, nothing. And she just decides to like move past it. They're walking around the party now, and Elena tells Stefan that her parents drove off of a bridge a few months ago and she was in the backseat and she survived, but they didn't. And then he tells her she won't be sad forever. And she really takes comfort in that, I think. I would smack someone who said that to me, but
yeah, I am gonna be sad forever. I'm never gonna recover.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. But I think he's the only person that can relate to her experience because we've seen how on different pages her and her brother are. So I think having somebody that also lost their parents that seems very similar minded is probably comforting. Then we see Vicky and Tyler. They're at the bonfire and they walk into the woods and Tyler's trying to like hook up with her. And she keeps saying, no, I don't want to do it. And this is such an icky scene.
Oh, so terrible.
But Jeremy comes to save the day and gets him to leave her alone, which is great.
And then there's like this kind of fight between Vicky and Jeremy too, because Tyler marches off. He's like, Vicky Donovan says no, which is disgusting. I'm trying to remember what exactly Jeremy says, but I know that she says something about you're worse because you want to get to know me. And so we see just like a little bit more about like her inner struggle with men.
And then we go back to Elena and Stefan, and Elena is explaining her and Matt's history. So this is where we find out that they had been friends forever, and they felt like they needed to date just to like try to see if anything could go anywhere, because they felt like they owed it to themselves because they had been good friends for so long. Which that's kind of like your relationship, except for yours has a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, when she was like, we owed it to ourselves to try, I was like, yeah, we did. And then she's like, but it sucked. I was like, oh.
Oh, never mind. And then we see Stefan's eyes do like the creepy vampire thing that I kind of love that happens this whole series, where like they get like little veins around their eyes and it gets all dark. And she asks if he's okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine, brushes it off and goes to get them a drink.
They've really set it up that we think Stefan is the one doing all the attacks so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because Vicky is wandering the woods alone now that Stefan has left. And there's this fog, and then she gets attacked by a man. Meanwhile, Matt is telling Elena that he still believes in them and he isn't giving up on them.
This just breaks my heart for Matt.
Sorry, Matt.
And then sort of similarly, Stefan comes out of the woods, which, suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And Caroline starts flirting with him. We've known the whole episode that Caroline is obsessed with Stefan.
Yeah.
And so she's doing her very best. And he very nicely but very bluntly is just like, me and you aren't going to happen.
Ouch.
Ouch, yeah. And so he goes back to Elena, but Elena is distracted because Jeremy is stumbling back into the woods. So she follows him. Again, we're just seeing big sister Elena all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And he stumbles and falls on top of Vicky, who is bleeding out of a wound in her neck.
And this is just reminding me of like when this was on TV and it would cut to commercial break and you're like, no, I have to know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
They do a really good job of like making it very tense for each commercial break.
Yep.
You want to know what happens next.
I thought the same thing watching this.
Yeah, like I could remember the parts. I'm like, oh, commercial break.
Well, it just like cuts abruptly, always at a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremy and Elena carry Vicky back to the party and they're calling for help.
At the time, Stefan, like we see his face and that he's kind of shocked and freaked out a little bit and he backs away. And Matt looks up at him and notices that there's like some weirdness with him. It actually said in the script, which I think like explains it really well, that Matt is not going to forget this. So Stefan comes home and he tells Zach that someone else was attacked and it wasn't him. And he runs upstairs and then a crow flies in. And who shows up but Damon? And he does the iconic line where he says,
hello, brother.
Oh my gosh.
This is like the meme of Vampire Diaries, I feel like. It's just like Ian Somerhalder's like little smolder face, like, hello, brother.
Yeah, he's Ian Smolderhalder, that's for sure.
Is. He really is.
Maybe that's why I'm Team Damon.
So then we kind of realize that the crow in the fog has been associated with Damon whenever he's coming around. And we also see that Stefan and Damon haven't seen each other in 15 years.
Stefan's asking him what brings him back to Mystic Falls, and Damon's like, I don't have to ask you that. Elena, she's a dead ringer for Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, ooh.
Uh-oh. And we find out a couple of important things in this scene. One, we find out that Stefan doesn't attack people because Damon, I think this is the scene where Damon, they get into like a little bit of a scramble, I think, and Damon makes a comment about how Damon is so much stronger because he still feeds on people. Mm-hmm. And so obviously just confirming that he's the one that's been attacking people. And he makes a comment about Stefan not doing that. Because I think he's like, when's the last time you had something better than a squirrel or something?
Mm-hmm.
Very Cullen coded.
Yeah. Vegetarian.
And we also find out that their rings are what make it so they can go out in the sun. Which I like this much better than the Cullen sparkliness.
The sweat sparkle. Yeah, no. I do too. Also, it just like makes me laugh. They like fight and they jump out of a window in this scene and the glass shatters and it's very dramatic and it's very fun and I love it. But at the same time, it was kind of like cheesy.
Yeah.
But they have to like show what like two strong vampires would actually do if they're angry at each other. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the bonfire, Bonnie tells Elena that she thinks whatever she saw in her vision was just the beginning.
Also very overly dramatic moment.
Yes, but she's right. It is the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then Elena tells Jeremy that he's got to be more careful because people are going to stop giving him breaks and the rest of the world doesn't care anymore and they've moved on. And she says this while he's drinking beer in front of a bunch of cops, which is just like funny.
Yeah. Ugh, it's funny and sad.
Mm-hmm.
And true.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's right.
Okay, so then we see a funny scene of Caroline and Bonnie at the Mystic Grill where Caroline is sobering up because they're waiting for her to feel better for Bonnie to take her home. And I just think that's funny. But then she has a very sad moment where she says that she always tries so hard and people never want her back because they always pick Elena.
Yeah. And Bonnie's like, it's not a competition, Caroline. And Caroline's like, yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, I remember in the Tumblr days, the GIFs of that scene just were always on my feed.
Mm-hmm. Like the GIFs or memes, or I don't even know what you would call it, where it's like 4 squares all attached, where it's showing like the dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like this scene, because we really get the vulnerability of Caroline here and see what she's struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And like she's misguided, but...
Yeah, it's sad. So then we see Matt at the hospital with Vicky because they're siblings, remember? Vicky wakes up and has a wrap around her neck, like a brace, and she says it was a vampire.
Spooky.
Spooky.
I would believe her 100%.
Totally.
And then we wrap up, and Stefan and Elena's diary entries are the voiceover at the end, and they kind of cross over and say the same things a couple of times. And we get a few flashes of what's happening. So we see Caroline's at the grill still, and she meets eyes with Damon.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and they're like giving flirty eyes at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Could not be good.
Mm-mm.
And then Stefan shows up at Elena's house, checking to see if she's okay, because he's really worried. And she invites him in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end.
Yeah. This is such a good pilot.
I think so, too.
I'm going to watch the rest. I'm going to keep watching tonight, probably.
I mean, I remember I was hooked because I was like, I have to know what happens to Vicky. I have to know what happens with Caroline. And like, this is so interesting. And the romance in this is so much more believable than Twilight. And I know we're harping on Twilight a lot, but it's just like the easiest comparison. And we just watched Twilight.
Mm-hmm. That was our last episode, if you want to go back and listen.
In Twilight, there was nothing to make us like Edward, really, at the beginning, or to make us see the connection that they had. And in this, there are so many little parts where we're like, oh, this is a crush. Like, we see it developing. We understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that.
Me too. Like, you get it in this. You're rooting for them. Whereas, like you're rooting for them and there's a clear enemy, which is Damon. Like, you're nervous, but you like them together and you don't know what he's going to do. It just, like, it's a really exciting premise, and I like where they leave the pilot.
Me too. Lots of conflict in it.
Mm-hmm. And we are definitely not the only ones that love this show because there have been a lot of spin-offs, like we kind of talked about at the top.
Yeah, there have been so many spin-offs. I think this is like a really successful show. It went on for 8 seasons, even without Nina Dobrev.
I think we should do a poll for this episode where people can say whether they're the Elena, Caroline, or Bonnie of their friend group.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, so you guys let us know.
Who are you?
I don't know.
I know your favorite's Bonnie, but...
Yeah, probably Caroline.
Caroline?
Yeah.
I could see that. Well, like later Caroline.
Yeah.
Caroline when she grows.
Yeah. I'm such a control freak. So I relate to Caroline in that way. Like, she's so, like, the organizer of the group, which I appreciate. And I love her later. Later, she's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
I hope you did, too. It was so fun.
This is a good transition from our spooky October month into the rest of our fall season.
Yeah. We're going to squeeze out the most fall that we can before it gets cold in Denver and we get sad.
Mm-hmm, we're in denial that it's coming.
We only do fall movies for the whole rest of the podcast.
Yeah, till the end of February.
Honestly, here it's like April.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you live somewhere warm,
we're happy for you.
Yeah, you're lucky. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it.
We also started sending out a fun weekly newsletter where we put together, sometimes it's watch lists, sometimes it's like at-home date night ideas. Usually it's like what's new that you can see on streaming services over the weekend so that you don't have to spend a bunch of time scrolling.
It's so fun, and Megan writes it, and she does a really good job.
Thanks. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.